Breaking tonight, after a scathing report, Joe Biden defends himself in a combative press conference.
My memory is fine.
Facing questions about his mental fitness, the U.S. president fires back in angry last-minute remarks. CBC News investigates a disturbing new warning about extremist groups targeting kids online.
I was also brainwashed. In reality, I was horrified of him.
And what Alberta's proposed gender policies mean for the federal Conservatives.
I think we should protect children, let them make adult decisions when they become adults.
The leader's response after days of questions. At Issue breaks down the politics.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news from the White House. The U.S. president angrily defending his mental fitness tonight. The hastily arranged press conference was a response to a special counsel report that found he had mishandled classified documents.
They don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed.
The special counsel did not recommend charges, but said Joe Biden presented himself as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory. Paul Hunter joins us from Washington. So, Paul, can you lay out the special counsel report and then what we saw in the president's remarks tonight?
Yeah, look, these comments from Joe Biden from the White House, utterly out of the blue tonight, Adrienne, and remarkable in what was said and how it all played out. In short, Joe Biden going on TV to defend his age, to deny that he's too old for the White House, to underline he is not with diminished faculties and a failing memory. All of it after, indeed, a scathing report released this afternoon, ultimately underlining Biden will not face charges for retaining classified documents after he left the Obama White House. But the report made so many allegations that Biden's memory is fading and that he presents as an elderly man that it's clear the White House tonight felt Biden needed to come out and, in a sense, prove otherwise. Question after shouted question from reporters after his initial comments themselves, underlining this has suddenly become a hot-button issue for the 81-year-old president. Here's a clip to give you a sense of how things played out tonight in the White House.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine.
Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your...
And it went on, Adrienne. Biden denied the allegation. He couldn't recall the year his own son, Beau, died, though he seemed to stumble in making that point. Later, when questioned separately about Gaza, he seemed to stumble over his description of how he was pushing to get aid into the Gaza Strip. Even so, he continued to push back against any suggestion he's too old, too hazy, too diminished to run for office again.
So, Paul, it's clear there's some anxiety in the Biden camp about the political damage these sorts of details could do in an election year.
Yeah, this cuts wide open all the talk about Biden's age. It's quietly been a thing for some time. Now it's a giant headline. Already the oldest president in U.S. history. This plays to his critics, including, of course, in the Donald Trump camp, with Trump supporters now calling Biden senile. It's clear to any who followed Joe Biden the last number of years, he is a different person now than he was even 4 years ago. The presidency is a stressful job. Biden, again, is 81, seeking re-election for another 4-year term. Trump, 77, but questions about his age come much less frequently. This is no doubt something the Trump people will now jump on.
All right, Paul Hunter in Washington. As Paul mentioned, as President Biden was leaving the room, he stopped to answer a question about the Israel-Hamas war and criticized Israel's military response.
The conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top.
Biden said he's been pushing hard to get humanitarian aid into Gaza and for a sustained pause in fighting. But in making that point, he mistakenly referred to the president of Egypt as the president of Mexico. Now to a CBC News investigation that could be alarming for parents. Police are warning about violent groups with extremist views targeting kids online, including right here in Canada. The Fifth Estate found online predators using social media to work their way into kids' lives, some as young as 11, trying to abuse them, urge them towards self-harm, even suicide. The goal, apparently, a twisted form of entertainment. Now, during her investigation, Ioana Roumeliotis spoke with a young woman still recovering from her experiences, along with a Canadian father who has a warning for others. As you can imagine, some of the details are disturbing.
The woods behind her home will always be part of 15-year-old Ali Broadway's horrific story.
Right here is where the tent was. This is where everything happened.
Ali was 11 when she met 21-year-old Caleb Merritt online. He manipulated her into harming herself.
Every time I did something wrong, cut. Every time I make a mistake, slice.
Police say Merritt was a member of CVLT, or cult. The FBI recently issued a warning about CVLT and other violent online groups targeting vulnerable children, with the end goal of forcing minors into committing suicide. The RCMP says it's aware of these groups and says their online activity is growing.
He asked her to cut 764 into her chest, and she immediately sent a picture of her chest saying, "Here."
We are not disclosing who this Canadian father is in order to protect his teenage daughter's identity. He says she was exploited by a 764 member. 764 is one of the groups named by the FBI. He found out after she tried to kill herself.
While I'm reading the messaging and I can see the timing of it, like I'm just outside in the hallway. This guy's in my house, in my daughter's mind.
As in Ali's case, the exchanges took place on private chat rooms on Discord. Canada's tip line has received more than 500 reports of minors exploited on Discord last year.
We believe that's probably only the tip of the iceberg.
It's not clear if the same groups are behind them, but the details sound chillingly familiar.
We've seen cases encouraging them to self-harm, are encouraging them to commit suicide, and then record the cutting of themselves.
In a statement to the Fifth Estate, Discord says it has a zero-tolerance policy for child sexual abuse, adding a dedicated team works vigilantly to keep these people and this content off our platform. But the danger can escalate. After grooming Ali online, Merritt drove from Texas to Virginia to camp in the woods behind her home. She says he raped her and then abducted her. Police found Ali a day later.
It can happen anywhere. What parents need to understand, and that's what individual law enforcement agencies need to understand.
So, Ioana, this is totally terrible. And of course, parents need to be careful, but it can't all be on them.
It can't, and that's why the push is growing for social media companies to be legally responsible for harm caused on their platforms. We saw the Senate committee in Washington blast CEO tech companies, saying they're not doing enough. And in Canada, federal legislation has been promised, but it hasn't been tabled yet. And in BC, they're going their own way. They're introducing their own legislation in the spring after a 12-year-old boy died by suicide after being victimized online.
Awful. Ioana, thank you.
You're welcome.
You can see the entire Fifth Estate investigation when the dark web crosses over tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and CBC Gem, or you can stream it on YouTube after 1 p.m. Eastern. A dangerous surge in drug overdoses has a small Ontario city in a state of emergency tonight. Belleville has seen more than 20 overdoses in just 2 days. Thomas Daigle on the tainted drugs officials say could be partly to blame.
It's difficult to see, even more painful for those living it. Belleville, Ontario is declaring a state of emergency over its addiction, mental health, and homelessness crisis. Something this woman, who asked not to be named, knows all too well.
What's changed in the drug supply?
What they're lacing it with. It's like they're trying to take us out, right?
Just since Tuesday afternoon, ambulance crews have responded to at least 23 suspected overdoses and managed to revive them all, including more than a dozen, mainly outside this church, in less than 2 hours, all in a small city with only 6 ambulances.
Generally, it's 1 to 2 calls per day of this nature. They're found very lethargic, unconscious, not responding to Narcan treatments, and needed for urgent transport to hospital.
At one point this week, the city took the extraordinary step of urging residents to avoid coming downtown. Now the mayor is pleading for help from the province and Ottawa.
It's a perfect storm, and it's hit. Politicians, we usually have a 4-year life cycle. It's something that we're not going to be able to fix in 4 years.
What's the worst case scenario?
It's just going to grow and grow.
In November, Heroin and fentanyl here were found to have been laced with what's known as the date rape drug, GHB. Now in other parts of Ontario, analysis of the street drug supply
This is xylazine.
is finding the animal tranquilizer xylazine, or tranq.
We're very fortunate that no one lost their life. So, everyone's checking on each other. Everybody's more vigilant.
It's unknown what toxic substance is fueling overdoses here now. Police are looking for a sample to analyze. Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health is warning every region to prepare in case the especially dangerous batch of drugs found here reaches other parts of the province. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Belleville, Ontario.
Bell Canada announced its largest layoff in decades today, with local TV and radio programming across the country taking a major hit. 4,800 employees will lose their jobs. That's about 9% of Bell Canada's total workforce. It's the second round of major layoffs for Bell since last spring. Nisha Patel now with the impact.
From The Source to CTV News, sweeping layoffs at Bell Canada will be felt across the country. Bell is cutting 4,800 jobs.
We must address a number of factors in our operating environment, and that includes unsupportive federal government policies.
Bell said new rules are weighing on its business. It now has to give competitors access to its high-speed fiber networks.
After just spending, billions and billions of dollars laying it out, and what they'd like to do is have it really all to themselves.
And as the media landscape shifts and ad revenues sink, 10% of today's cuts were at Bell Media. Viewers will notice most CTV News at noon and weekend shows are gone. Flagship investigative series W5 was cancelled as a standalone program after more than 50 years. The political reaction was swift.
On behalf of all British Columbians that have watched their local news stations slowly turned to garbage by these companies, I just want to say shame on you.
Just 8 months ago, Bell Media cut 1,300 jobs, closing radio stations and foreign bureaus.
Our government responded already multiple times.
The Heritage Minister says Bell saved millions of dollars in regulatory relief last year. So now it's breaking a promise.
They're still a very profitable company, and they still have the capacity and the means to hold their end of the bargain, which is to deliver news reports.
Bell Media also sold off almost half of its radio stations in BC, Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada. Private company Vista Radio bought up 21 stations and hopes to grow them.
Done properly, a local radio station is frankly a mirror of the community, and that's kind of what we position ourselves to be.
Bell said the cuts will save up to $200 million this year, though the company hinted it could slash costs even further. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
City mayors, provincial and federal leaders, police and private companies all came together in Ottawa to tackle the problem of surging auto thefts. Everyone agrees this is a big problem, but what steps are being taken? Kate McKenna has the solutions they discussed.
From the top brass of the RCMP to the Prime Minister, all agree auto theft is a national crisis.
The rise over the last years has been alarming.
It's unprecedented, and the extreme violence that's associated to that and what we're seeing, it's something that was never seen before.
The summit heard that more than 100,000 cars were stolen last year by criminal organizations, shipping them overseas and selling them to fund terrorism and more crime, prompting calls for tougher sentences.
The difference is with guns and drugs, you're going to spend a significant time behind bars. We're not seeing that.
In Ontario, we only saw 68% of those convicted serve a sentence of 6 months or less. We need to see stiffer penalties.
Canada's Justice Minister says they're open to legislating harsher sentences.
My message to my constituents and to Canadians that are watching is that we are listening, and together with all of the important leaders in this room, we are ready to act.
The federal government says it will also target these electric devices used to hack key fobs and steal cars.
To the criminals out there, we're going to disrupt your activities with everything we have.
They're also trying to stop illegal exports from ports, stolen cars in shipping containers like these, often being shipped from Montreal. Ahead of the summit, the federal government earmarked $28 million to help fix that problem.
We need to send a strong signal
from all across the partners that this is not, it's not okay. And if there's criminals doing so, well, they will pay for it.
Our common sense plan.
This week, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre promised increased mandatory jail time for car thieves, as well as new scanners to check shipping crates for stolen vehicles. At the summit, Trudeau defended his approach.
A catchy slogan won't stop auto theft. A 2-minute YouTube video won't disrupt organized crime.
But Kate, I mean, sure, there was a lot of talk today, but it really doesn't seem like there was much in the way of concrete policy announcements.
Yeah, other than the signals from the Justice Minister that legal reform is coming, as well as those promises to crack down on the fob hacking devices, nothing concrete. But Adrian, just to show you how widespread this issue is, the Justice Minister's office confirmed his own government vehicle was stolen in November, and he's still faring better than the previous Justice Minister. His car was stolen twice in 2 years.
Oh, wow. All right, Kate McKenna in Ottawa, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vote counting is underway in Pakistan's election tonight, with final results expected tomorrow. Our South Asia correspondent, Salima Shibji, is in Islamabad to show us an election day plagued by violence and claims of corruption.
A voting day under a cloud in an election tainted, seen as neither free nor fair. As polling booths like this one opened, mobile services were cut across Pakistan, a shutdown for security reasons, authorities said. After 2 deadly bombings on the eve of the vote in the rest of Balochistan province. And more violence the day of near a polling station. But critics say cutting off mobile internet is inherently undemocratic, yet another means to meddle with the election and keep people at home. It might have worked, says this polling agent trying to get voters to show up for his party.
I have lost about 500 votes. Really, I don't know why they will do this.
Still, at this rural polling station, turnout was steady. So you voted? Nasir Mahmood tells me he has faith in democracy. Only it doesn't really exist in Pakistan, he says. The establishment shouldn't be meddling. The establishment code for the army, accused of overtly interfering in this election and choosing their favorite, perceived frontrunner Nawaz Sharif. There's been a crackdown on the party of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, still very popular, who sent in his vote from jail, where he sits barred from running. The counting will take time, as will the official results, but analysts say the damage is already done, with a discontented electorate.
I think lack of trust, disconnect between the state institutions and the people, and continued instability. Because when the people are not with the government, when the hearts and minds rest somewhere else, then obviously the governments can't function.
And the challenges for Pakistan's new leader seem almost insurmountable. An economy crippled, inflation sky high, on the heels of an election that laid bare who is in charge here. Salima Shibji, CBC News, Islamabad.
Some companies offering virtual health care and doctor appointments might be doing a lot more than just diagnosing you.
What we found might surprise patients.
What insiders say they're really doing with your personal information. Next. Pierre Poilievre says he is against puberty blockers for minors.
I think we should protect children.
At issue on why it took days of pressure for him to answer. And later, the moment a moose hit the slopes. The story behind this wild encounter. We're back in 2 minutes. As virtual visits become a bigger part of Canadian healthcare, new research has found for-profit companies behind the software are working with pharmaceutical companies to sell products, and some patient data is even being sold. As Christine Birak explains, some experts say they're putting profits ahead of patients.
If you have medical appointments by text, phone, or video, that's virtual care. Most sites are run by for-profit companies promising access to doctors, but researchers say that's not all they're selling.
What we found might surprise patients.
A new study looked at how the commercial virtual care industry gathers, uses, and values patient data. Based on documents and interviews with 18 industry insiders, researchers found, in some cases, virtual care companies were funded by pharmaceutical companies to push products.
They were actually using that patient data to make decisions in terms of how they were going to organize patient care, to increase the uptake of a drug or a vaccine.
Patient data is also being sold.
It's not the physician that you get to talk to through the app that keeps that record of information. It's the company.
And if a patient searches something on the app like acne, insiders said companies try and sell them even more services. Legal experts say this isn't like walking into a doctor's office.
Your family doctor isn't trying to collect superfluous information in order to market services to you.
But with a shortage of family doctors, some provinces are actively pushing for-profit virtual care, even paying for appointments. Experts insist Canadians shouldn't have to sacrifice privacy to access care.
What we're calling for is that all data collected through these platforms is treated as personal health information.
That change would give Canadians the power to opt out of data collection on these for-profit sites. Researchers insist politicians need to catch up with the times, make sure virtual care is working best for patients, not company profits. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
We want to correct a detail on a story we brought you earlier this week about how the Houthis became major players in the Middle East. In it, we reported Hamas is considered a terrorist organization by several countries and entities, including the United Nations. In fact, the UN does not consider Hamas a terrorist organization. Coming up, Canadians are losing millions of dollars in a brand new online scam.
$500,000 US on my life saving.
From the devastated victims to those doing the scamming.
What if you didn't make money for the company?
Then said there will be beat an electric shock.
A CBC Marketplace investigation right after the break. Plus, Rosie's here with that issue. Hey, Rosie.
Hey, Adrian. Tonight, we're going to talk about the federal Conservatives' response to Alberta's gender identity policies.
Puberty blockers for minors?
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
I think that we should protect children and their ability to make adult decisions when they're adults.
So why did it take so long for the Conservatives to weigh in? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more.
You can always find The National, our award-winning CBC News journalism and breaking news anytime on the free CBC News app, cbcnews.ca, on CBC Gem, and on our YouTube channel.
Online investment and romance scams are some of the most costly cons in Canada. More than $350 million were lost last year alone. But as David Common with CBC Marketplace found, those trying to dupe Canadians are often victims themselves.
So she said this is a beach that she went to over the weekend.
Our Marketplace team engaged online with a suspected scammer.
So, couple of weeks, you're friends with her now.
A little bit.
A connection which often starts with friendship, maybe even romance. But after a long courtship, the scammer offers a crypto investment opportunity.
Many people are involved in it, making profits every day.
What looks like a legitimate crypto account is not. And thousands of Canadians have been losing big money.
$500,000 US on my life saving.
I trusted him and I put all my money into the project that he wants me to do.
The scammers are often based in Asia, like in this casino town in Cambodia, where organized crime groups often use humans trafficked to scam. This man was locked up and ordered to lure people online before his escape.
What if you didn't make money for the company?
Then said there will be beat an electric shock.
Did you see any of that yourself?
Yeah, I saw one of the Vietnamese being beaten very terrible.
Were you able to do a trace for us on
Absolutely. Well, I can show you kind of in live time what that looks like.
Because the money is in crypto, tracking and recovering is hard, but not impossible.
We got 20.6 million US dollars that have been sent to that address by itself.
In the Edmonton Police Headquarters, investigators are having some success.
This is much easier to follow than cash. It is fully open source. It is a public ledger. You can look at every transaction that's ever come in and ever gone out of every Bitcoin address in existence.
They're working to recover money, but because it's overseas, cooperation is hard to find. David Common, CBC News, Edmonton.
You can see the entire investigation tomorrow on Marketplace. That airs at 8 p.m. on CBC Gem and CBC Television, 8:30 in Newfoundland. Now, let's break down the week in politics. Rosie's here with that issue.
At issue this week, the debate over Alberta's gender policies lands on Parliament Hill after days of questions. Pierre Poilievre weighs in.
I think we should protect children, let them make adult decisions when they become adults.
So that means you are against puberty blockers for kids under the age of 18. Is that
Yes.
clear? Okay.
So, what to make of Poilievre's response to the policy and to the media when pressed? Hi there, I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it all down on At Issue tonight. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. Good to see you all. So this answer from Poilievre came after multiple attempts, I should say, by journalists to get him to weigh in on the issue. We can talk about his response to reporters in scrums, but let's start with where he came down and what he was willing to say about where he stands on the policy and what that tells us, I guess, about the Conservative Party's position on this. Chantal, do you want to start us off?
You said weighed in. It looked to me like he was the guy on the beach who put his toe in the water and decided it was a bit too cold, and went back to the beach. It's clearly not a conversation that he wants to have, and not one that he wants to be a big part of, and with good reason. You saw it this week. Even within the Conservative movement, in the larger sense, Premier Smith is in one place, as are others, but Premier Ford is not. I don't think this debate would do any good to the Conservatives in Quebec. So I think bottom line, he's really trying to walk a very fine line. I'm not sure that it's not a lose-lose line, whatever he says.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it is also something that is been discussed inside the federal party, Andrew. It's not like this is coming only because Alberta's done this. The Conservative delegates voted in favor of some policies on gender identity. And so those have also been put forward to Pierre Poilievre as the leader.
Yes, but as Chantal says, he does not want to get out in front of this. This is not the only issue in which he's kind of waited until there was some clearing of the way for him, first of all. So on immigration, for example, he was among the last really to get out and say we need to reduce the numbers or what have you. There had been a sort of a bubbling up of sentiment on that. And similarly on this, there had been commentators saying, well, actually, we look at Danielle Smith's reform, we don't think they're way over the top. Now, lots of other people do find them over the top, but the point is there was space made for him on the right of the spectrum to say something. But even then, I think if you watch that press conference or that scrum, it's basically dragged out of him. He's not eager to comment on it.
No, and I should say today he was asked other questions and said, please see my comments from yesterday, because he didn't want to go down that road again.
And in fairness to him, a lot of this, I mean, his mantra on a lot of these things is let the provinces decide.
Yes, it is.
A lot of this is provincial jurisdiction. Doesn't mean federal politicians can't comment on it, but.
No, and it doesn't mean that his own party members don't have beliefs around it. And I wonder whether that causes a problem for him, Althea. The fact that there are people in the party who might want him to speak more forcefully and openly about his views on this.
Well, he can't adopt a policy publicly that goes against what the membership voted. I mean, he did not leave that space open in September, and this was wildly popular. His comments this week reflect where the party membership is. I think he was hoping that he might be able to use what happened last week, Danielle Smith's announcement, to harm the Liberals with this. He tried to kind of bait reporters outside of Ottawa, where they're only allowed to ask one question, they're not allowed to ask a follow-up question, trying to get them to talk about the restrictions. He lied, straight up lied, and said that they were misrepresenting what had happened. That wasn't actually true. But most of those reporters couldn't actually explain what Danielle Smith had announced, and he didn't give them space to do that. So he very easily swatted those questions. And then when he was given the chance in Ottawa, where reporters are engaging in follow-up questions, he was it wasn't even clear what his policy stance was. He kept repeating that he wanted to ensure that children have the right to make adult decisions when they are adults. And then he talked about irreversible changes. Well, puberty blockers are not irreversible. Perhaps he was thinking about hormonal therapy. So reporters were trying to get a clear answer, and it wasn't necessarily clear what Mr. Poilievre was saying. Truthfully, I'm not even sure that Mr. Poilievre fully has a fleshed out position that he himself understands, because he's a very clear talker when he wants to be, so he's choosing not to be. And what is interesting is that he's trying to take an issue on which he's playing defense, because it kind of brings up this idea of, you know, conservative secret agenda, and he's turning it into an offensive play, where if at first he's attacking reporters, now he's attacking the Prime Minister, trying to paint this as if it's Justin Trudeau who put this issue on the agenda, and it is not.
Chantal Watson.
I suspect that Pierre Poilievre, like us, did not expect to have to be discussing puberty blockers as part of a big political debate. And if he doesn't really know what he's talking about, nor are the journalists who are asking him the questions. And that kind of illustrates the point that why are premiers suddenly deciding that they know better than the medical profession when puberty blockers are in place. It's a vivid illustration of a place where the state has no place, including in the provinces. But that being said, I'm with Althea on the secret agenda stuff. It has hurt and never helped the Conservatives in the past federally. The notion that there is some secret agenda. So I totally expect him to continue to say, I've already said whatever I have to say about this.
Yeah, but lashing out when you get these kinds of questions, I don't know if that's the best approach either, because if you want to be Prime Minister, you do have to explain your positions on issues. That is sort of fundamental to the job, I think. I don't know.
Well,
I have not noticed that it has hurt the Conservatives or Mr. Poilievre to be lashing out at journalists.
Fair enough.
And I, frankly, as a journalist, don't give a damn that he's lashing out at me.
Yeah, but there's a reason why the Liberals have jumped all over this, of course, which is it will make him uncomfortable. So he's on actually solid ground in saying, yeah, Justin Trudeau didn't launch this issue, but he's certainly jumping in with both feet on it, and is trying to use it as a wedge issue. I would only note the contrast between the alacrity with which the Liberals get involved in this issue of provincial rights and looking after minorities, and the contrast with their behavior on Bill 21 in Quebec. So on some issues, it's all a matter of standing up for what's right. On some matters, it's a matter of keeping your mouth shut.
100%.
Or it takes you 3 years to get there. I do have a problem with the lashing out against reporters. I will say I worry about what will happen in the next election, because Mr. Poilievre has very astutely recognized that these press conferences that used to happen behind closed doors, where we would ask all types of questions, some of them were loaded, some of them were not, but they were designed to get an answer, and then that answer would be a clip in our news report that evening, or in our story, or in a column. But now they are a show, and we figure as actors in Mr. Poilievre's show, where he can use us as punching bags. And we are not truthfully trained for this. We have a certain set of ethics. We ask the leader of the official opposition's office all sorts of questions. We never, in fact, write a lot of stories about the questions that we ask. Sometimes we chase down an idea, it turns into a story. Sometimes we realize after we've collected our facts that there is no story there. But Mr. Poilievre wants to use us for his own purposes, and now that we do not control the television stations, people can get their news from wherever, it has changed the nature of the game. And I think that we are not, we haven't, the mainstream media hasn't really adjusted to that yet.
I'm not sure we need to worry too much about that.
Okay, hang on. Chantal, then quickly, Andrew,
I'm old enough to remember the Friday Pierre Trudeau news conferences. So the notion that a politician in office uses journalists as punching bag is not new.
No, not new to me either. No.
Just go see the tapes if you really want to see it.
Andrew. I don't think Althea is saying it's new. It says being used differently.
Like there was dialogue from what I wasn't there when I was. Okay, but you were there. I was not. I wasn't.
Hey, last word to Andrew.
I think we just keep our head down and keep asking questions. It works for him until it doesn't. At some point, he's going to look like he's evading responsibility, evading accountability. It's one thing to wind up your base. It's another thing to attract voters in a general election with that kind of tactic.
Yeah, keep asking the questions. I agree. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about the Liberal NDP supply and confidence agreement. Jagmeet Singh says he's put the Prime Minister on notice to force the Liberals to deliver on pharmacare by March 1st. How serious is this ultimatum? That's next. The NDP are once again threatening to end their deal to prop up the Liberal minority government. After a meeting with the PM, Jagmeet Singh drew a line in the sand.
We are very serious that pharmacare has to be delivered. We need to see legislation and some additional steps. And I made that very clear to the Prime Minister. I put him on notice that we expect that by March 1st. If not, there will be repercussions.
So what's to be made of these latest threats from Singh? Should the Liberals be concerned about losing NDP support? Or is Jagmeet Singh posturing for a political win for his own party? Let's bring everybody back. Chantal, Andrew, Althea. Andrew, why don't you start us off here? It kind of feels like the boy who cried wolf. Like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting off of this. But it might be also effective because he is getting things from the government.
Yeah, depends what you mean by things. He is not going, I mean, I'm not privy to the Liberals' innermost thoughts, but I'll go out on a limb and say he is not going to get single-payer universal pharmacare out of the Liberals. We can't afford it fiscally. It is not a political winner for them. Most people have, drug coverage at their employer that they're perfectly happy with. Being told you have to take the public plan, I don't think would be a real winner for anybody. So that's not going to happen. Whether he will accept a lesser, more targeted plan, we shall see. I think one reason why he might make good on his threat and it not actually amount to much is just because you end the supply and confidence agreement does not mean you bring down the government. It just means you revert back to minority governments as we've always known them. And it may suit him. This may be a good time to get out from under the Liberal embrace and strike out a more separate identity for the NDP, and that may be what happens.
Chantal?
There are New Democrat strategists who apparently believe that if they walked away from this agreement, they would have time to showcase the NDP as the real alternative to Justin Trudeau. I'm not sure that I see any evidence of that. They would have a major Quebec problem. They're not going anywhere. There's no orange wave in the making here. But you could see it as an early attempt to put lipstick on a pig, as in whatever comes out, he can say, well, you see, I forced them to come up with something in time for my deadline. But Andrew is right. The NDP does not hold the balance of power in this parliament. It has to share it with the Bloc Québécois. So between the two of them, I don't think we're going to be precipitated in an election that neither party really wants.
Althea.
The Liberals seem to think that a deal is still possible in the making. I have a hard time seeing where that middle ground is, but if you parse Mr. Singh's word in that press conference, he did really just talk about introducing a piece of legislation that lays the pathway for a universal system. So he didn't even say he's requiring the Liberals. He wants the Liberals to have a single payer, but doesn't necessarily mean that, there's a fixed deadline before the next election. It's just legislation being tabled. So I don't know. We had also heard that there might be, like the middle room might be a universal coverage plan for very, very expensive drugs.
Limited number,
That still seems to be something that's being discussed, but I agree with Andrew, and I think Chantal, I'm not sure there is a lose-lose here for the NDP. It seems like there's a win-win. Either you leave with everything you wanted and you get to claim victory, or maybe this is the time that you've been looking for to distinguish yourself from the Liberals. And the Bloc Québécois seems these days more and more bullish against Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. So it might also be, not a bad thing for the Liberals to have a secondary partner here.
Isn't the lose-lose, though, that the NDP doesn't get credit for anything? I mean, isn't that what the Liberals are counting on? That we get to the election and no one can remember anything that the NDP did?
I think the NDP will remind us about dental care every single day.
Chantal, fair enough.
Well, but they certainly have been reminding people every single day, and they have seen no evidence that it does anything for them in public opinion polls, and they have ceased that are on the line, actually. Yeah. They're not necessarily looking at gains. They're still playing defense. So the worst question I would ask if I were a New Democrat looking at all this is not whether it's win-win, lose-lose. It's what if it doesn't really matter?
Well, let's remember, the reason they got into the supply and confidence agreement was really as a defensive mechanism, so they wouldn't have to answer the question every day, why are you propping up this government? It gave them a ready-made answer. If that's no longer needed, and I think the low ebb of the Liberals' fortunes gives them some room to distance themselves, it doesn't mean they want to force an election, because the NDP isn't doing that great either, but it may be the time to put some distance between them.
Well, and to Chantal's point, if they're not getting credit for the wins that they have already had, what's the point of trying to push for more wins? Right. Why not create that space that distinguishes yourself from the governing party?
Chantal, let me get you to weigh in on what Althea said there about the Bloc being more bullish against the Conservatives. Do you see that too? And is that because there's something to worry about in Quebec for the Bloc?
To worry about, I don't think we're there yet. But I do believe that two things. The Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet, is not going out of his way to put the Liberals on trial, because what he does not want is for Quebec voters to suddenly want a change in government. At that point, the Bloc is not the answer. But the other thing that I've perceived, just looking from the outside, is there is a lot of personal bad blood now between Mr. Blanchet and Mr. Poilievre, and anything that looks like a win for the Conservatives, the Bloc will oppose.
Althea, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, we had a press conference, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, where Yves-François Blanchet, even in English, went out of his way to say that, I'm not sure that I'm even allowed to use this word on the air, but, you know, that Pierre Poilievre did not have an economic policy, and then used a word I'm not supposed to use, I think. He was very, like, he went all in on a very personal attack against the Conservative leader that seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, in scrums, he does his best to distinguish himself. Yes, he still attacks the Liberals, but he's really trying to, he talks about Pierre Poilievre more than he talks about Justin Trudeau. It's often very much in contrast, how the Conservatives are not doing enough, how their values are not in line with Quebecers constantly. So it is, you've seen the Conservatives, itching up in public opinion polls in the province. And so perhaps Chantal is right that they don't have anything to worry about at the moment, but they are breathing down the Liberals' necks in terms of being number 2 in the province.
I'll give you a last quick word, Andrew.
Yeah, they had something of a surge going on in Quebec until about a month or two ago, and then it seemed to top out. Now, what happens when you get close to the election and it looks like Ontario is going to go Conservative in a big way, if that's the case? It'd be interesting to watch Quebecers' reaction then.
See, I said we were going to just, last word.
But the last time that happened, Quebec voted for the NDP.
That's right.
I was going to just make you talk about the NDP, but then you all brought up interesting things, so we went a different direction. That's why I love you all. Thank you. And now I'll send things back to Adrienne, and she, of course, is in Toronto.
Thank you, Rosie. Up next, a high-speed chase on the slopes.
Right when I got my phone out to record, the moose started coming directly at me.
Sure did. We'll get the story behind this close call right after the break.
I'm Damon Fairless. Tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast, Front Burner, Taylor Swift's romance with NFL star Travis Kelce has pulled in a lot of new football fans and kicked off some next-level conspiracy theories. This year's Super Bowl has gotten super weird. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube.
So this is what skiers saw on their way down a slope in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That, if you can, maybe you can't quite see it, but that is a moose charging directly towards them at full speed. So that was the farthest thing they were expecting, to say the least. Tonight, the moose on the loose is our moment.
To see the animal was pretty awesome. I've never seen them gallop like that, and they're huge.
Go faster! We were out skiing with a bunch of friends, and we came flying down a hill toward the bottom of the mountain, and then I saw it, and we both started whipping out our phones. Priorities, right? Right when I got my phone out to record, the moose started coming directly at me.
We just maintained our speed so we could have control.
Let our friends know, hey, there's a moose, so go a little bit faster, please.
Usually those moose are just kind of standing in the woods, minding their own business.
It's chasing Kenny!
but they can be pretty aggressive too.
And fast.
Watch him! Hurry! He's cruising!
But luckily he did start slowing down toward the end there, and there's a ski patrol behind him that kind of ushered him onto a different trail. It was just kind of a surreal moment where you don't really, you know what's happening, but it doesn't register with you quite yet.
It was
Go
awesome.
off for the ride and enjoy the experience.
I love the guy who's like, go faster. And, you know, speaking of priorities, of course, they didn't just get the shot. In this era, they had all three angles of that moose coming. It's a sign of the times. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.